ATA! Hi everybody! This video is about sparring. So I want to go through the offensive and defensive sparring lines that we're working on this cycle. In class, we're working on variations. We're challenging you, we're mixing it up, but I want you to be very confident in what you need to know for your yellow stripe this cycle, okay? Yellow stripe this cycle is going to be sparring, and it's going to require you to understand an offensive sparring line and a defensive sparring line. So as you know, we keep throwing sparring lines at you so that you have a wide arsenal of tools to utilize when you are in a sparring ring. We don't want you to become formulaic. We don't want you to always do the same thing over and over. I know I'm guilty of that. Stepping back, front kick, punch, punch, those are my go-to because those are the things that I'm comfortable with. But it's really important to always mix it up and to always be challenging yourself to learn new things and to try new moves and new combinations so that you get better and stronger and more effective at your sparring game. Okay, so offensively first, I'm going to do first a number 3 outer crescent into a number 2 round kick, and then I'm just gonna punch. I like to end my kicking lines with a couple of punches because sometimes the person evades, or they're just out of my reach, or they've stepped, or they've adjusted to me. And if I just keep coming at them, in theory, something will stick, right? So I want to make sure I maximize my opportunities to score by having multi-steps to my attack. You always want to be attacking in combination, okay? So if we're sparring together, I'm going to do a number 3 outer crescent, follow that up with a number 2 round, and then punch, punch, okay? I always like to lead my punch combinations with whatever foot is in front. So I don't ever want to lead with a back or a reverse punch. I always like to lead with the jab because it's closer to your opponent. So of course, you're more likely to score. Okay, let's do that again. So we're sparring, number 3, number 2, oh, good. Now, it's really important, you notice I struggle with that a little bit, getting that hip rotation for that round kick. You're gonna get higher kicks, you're gonna be stronger if you make sure that after that outer crescent, you put that foot down in an open position so that you can rotate all the way around. I tend not to do that when I spar, just because my hips are built differently, and my hips like to stay closed. So I end up coming in with my round kicks a little bit too open, and it cuts off a lot of my power. So that's not a good habit to get into, okay? So again, good. Now, make sure that you're always on your feet, always on your toes when you're training, and envision your opponents coming at you. Like we learned in our Friday guest speaker class, it's a really good form of shadow boxing. So shadow boxing originated when people would go outside and they would spar themselves, right? So they would see their shadow and they would box their shadow. The same thing applies in your mind. Use your imagination to see your opponent coming at you, and what are they throwing and what can you throw in combination to counter that, okay? So defensively, the side kick is perhaps the easiest and most effective defensive move, right? So that number 1 side kick, just always ready. You're here whenever you need to throw it, just pop. And sometimes people will walk right into it. You can be here and hop to your opponent for a little offensive action, which is fine too, okay? So we want to utilize our side kick as our first line of defense. Someone's coming at you, number 1 side kick is a really good deterrent. After you throw that number 1 side kick, you immediately want to follow it up with an outer crescent kick. So if we're sparring and you're coming at me and I throw this and then this, I immediately can go into a punch combination to attack, or I can step forward into a number 2 kick. So it's just a really good combination. If I'm pushing someone off with my side kick and they keep coming in, that outer crescent changes the height difference in my kicks. So I'm coming at a different target of theirs, of my opponent's. Instead of the stomach, or the chest, I'm coming at the head. And that's a really good thing to do, is vary the heights of your kicks, okay? So again, if you're coming at me, that number one side kick right into that outer crescent is a good combination to put into your arsenal. Awesome job, everybody. Make sure that you do both sides of the body every time you work on your sparring techniques so that you become adept at sparring either direction and no matter what's coming at you. Awesome job. Train hard. Be transformed.